All right, wow, we had a hell of a weekend, lots of tournaments to go over, and we will be getting started with the Conquerors Cup qualifier number 4. We're on 4 now. We have, I believe, 4 more to go before the final Grand Championship later on in August. So super excited to get to that. But before we do, like I said, top 8. First up, pretty high profile match between AnnieDesu and Ghosterdriver. Ghosterdriver on a tear lately. Ghosterdriver just won Maverick Tournament League a few weeks back. Also won the last Duels of Runeterra. Straight up won both. Now we're going to see if he can take home the Conquerors Cup. AnnieDesu, obviously a great performer across multiple tournaments, has taken home some championships as well. So good to see him in this qualifier. Hopefully both of them able to get into the final qualifier later on in August. AnnieDesu playing MF Sejuani, Darrowing, and Ezreal Karma. And again, Ezreal Karma back into the mix. It is not banned this week for the tournament. And Ghosterdriver also playing Darrowing alongside MF Quinn Scouts and Zed Braum Elusive. So pretty interesting lineup on the part of Ghosterdriver. We'll see who can take this home here in the quarterfinals match of qualifier number 4.
Hard, it feels a lot better. He does have 11 misses for his Kinku Wayfinder, which I think is part of the reason we see him go down to 2. 3 Windfarer Hatchling is not necessarily something I'm completely sold on, especially with only 2 Fury of the North in the deck. I think that Fury of the North is one of the best Freljord cards at the moment across pretty much every matchup you could possibly have.
Easy,
especially when you're running something like Zed, where I can just Fury of the North of Zed and go in with 2 7 attack units. That's massive. But yeah, I think that it's fine. It's a pretty standard build. The Navori Conspirator is still a little bit weird to me. I've never been a massive fan of that card. We actually do see that he has cut Solitary Monk this week. It was something that these lists were still playing for just a little bit of combo potential pop-off with the Blade Scout and the Omen Hawks and things of that nature. But overall, I think the deck is fine.
I think, yeah, he seems a little questionable there, though. It's fine in quotes. Like, listen, I'm just going to give this one gripe with this, and it's essentially that missing Allegiance is kind of like a meme. And this just makes me so uncomfortable looking at the deck list. Like, I just look at this deck list, and all I see is Kinku Wayfinder not hitting Allegiance. Now, he is only running 2 Kinku Wayfinders, so he's obviously a little less reliant on that card, but God, I don't know, man. I just hate when I miss Allegiance.
I mean, Ghosterdriver this is the 3rd week in a row where he is running 3 Allegiance decks, so we have seen him live and die by those Allegiance triggers. I want to say that he's actually missed Basilisk Rider the most, which doesn't make any sense, but that just kind of is what it is.
Yeah, right. And what is he? I think he's playing
4.
Yeah, he's only playing 4, which is pretty typical, either 3 or 4. Usually, I think most common is 3 Harrowing and 1 Atrocity. I've seen people even run only 2 Harrowing and still manage to miss Allegiance. It just always seems like when you need it, you miss it.
I've
always
seen
like
so
that.
many players have 1 Harrowing in hand and then still miss the Allegiance and then just draw that other Harrowing, and it's like, these are the only 2 Shadow Owl cards in my deck. How is this possible?
So we do have also the 2-minute countdown, so we're just about to get into the game, folks. So pretty excited here. And I said 2-minute countdown, but we might have already hit the 2 minutes. So I think they're about to get started. So I'm going to go ahead and get us on over. Nope, I lied. I lied. They baited me. I got baited, guys. Sorry. So yeah, I'm honestly super excited though to see Ghosterdriver play in a tournament like this, because what this shows me is, especially unfortunately they both can't make semis right now, or both make the finals and then both qualify for the final qualifier in August. But it will be nice to see hopefully Ghosterdriver or Annie be able to make it into the finals here and qualify for that tournament, because then if that's the case, we have a pretty sick tournament that we're looking to have towards the end of August here with some pretty awesome players in it.
Yeah, I definitely think Lobster needs a little bit of competition in this one. Not to say that everybody else who has qualified, is less than Lobster, but he has been on a tear through the North American scene, definitely one of the better known players in that specific region. And me and shit being from North America, we know Lobster's name more than we know some of the others. So we do know how good Lobster is. The other players are a bit of a wild card to us. So we'd like to see some players that we also know the name of that can definitely go toe-to-toe with him.
Yeah, 100%. And we are getting the 30 seconds. So I got to learn how to like, time properly too. First it's math, then it's reading, then it's time.
Vocabulary.
Vocabulary. But hey, we had a pretty good vocab lesson last time around for one of the other tournaments. So I am going to go ahead. I'm going to pull up Annie's screen, I think, is the main point of perspective that we have right now. So I'm going to go ahead and get us on over just for when it does start. Don't worry, our beautiful faces are still here for you guys to join and watch this game. I'm not sure if we are actually going to have a second hand for this game. We shall see. But either way, pretty excited to get going in this. And I'm curious to see what the first deck choice from Annie will be. Generally, you want the Karma Ezreal deck to be like that last, because it's a little bit easier to win out with a Karma Ezreal deck against anything, especially with him having already banned his opponent's Darrowing deck.
Yeah, and we do know that, Ghosterdriver has been looking to pick on these Karma Ezreals, so that could be the tougher deck for Annie to pick up a win with. So maybe you just want that confidence boost of picking up this win with the Darrowing to start things off. Mm-hmm. Maybe understanding that Ghosterdriver is probably going to open with the Scouts, not wanting to risk a mirror match, but Annie, taking his chances, saying, I'll risk a mirror match. Well, we can go toe-to-toe. We can dance with the Darius, baby. And let's see how this one works out for him.
And we do see here a pretty damn good opener. I'm not going to lie. Always feels good as an aggro deck to see just when you can count, it feels good. And we can count right now. 1, 2, 3. And we also have the transfusion here as possibly a little bit of backup. Not too many cards you can really combo with it like a Crimson Disciple right now. But nonetheless, Legion Saboteur, a pretty good start.
Yeah, and whenever we see these Darrowing decks sort of falter, I always feel like it's just because they loaded up on too many spells in the early game. So I definitely like keeping this all-unit hand. And then, as we see here, he top decks 2 spells in a row. So if he had mulliganed any of these away and found more spells, we could see him in one of those precarious positions that we sometimes do with decks like these.
And I don't know. What do you do here? Do you take the open? It looks like he is going to go ahead and summon the Legion Grenadier. Do you ever just go for the open attack there?
The only punish is War Chef. That's kind of the one thing that gets the free trade onto your Saboteur and then also gets to live into the Legion Grenadier. I definitely think there's merit for the open attack, but I definitely understand wanting to run out this Legion Grenadier as sort of your aggressive option, understanding that the War Chef's the only thing that feels really bad. Fleet Feather Tracker doesn't feel amazing, but it's nowhere near as bad.
Well, and you got to kind of play to your deck strengths, right? Like the deck is supposed to be aggressive, so I guess just kind of no matter what the statistics are telling you as far as, War Chef's possibly coming down, you kind of want to just play to kill your opponent as quickly as possible. And I think that's what Annie's trying to do here in typical Darrowing style, just basically shoving everything at their face and hoping that they draw something like Atrocity, which he does have in his hand, as well as Darius. So this should be interesting in the next couple of turns.
Yeah, and I think one of the reasons he didn't go for the open attack is because regardless of how the board state plays out and the board advantages that Ghosterdriver can accumulate through something like a War Chef coming down that turn, is he just wants to get his opponent down to 10 because then he's got lethal with Darius Atrocity.
Yeah, honestly, such a feel-good combo. Like, as much as you can hate the Darrowing deck, God, does it feel good to have a level 2 Darius on the field and just Atrocity for that sweet 10 damage. It's just such a perfect... he needs 10 health to level up, then he has 10 attack to do the last 10 damage. Just feels so good.
And I'm wondering if we're actually going to see the Noxian Fervor onto face here, and then run out the Iron Ballista on the following turn. It's really just, you want to play Darius on 6, get that level up on turn 7. You're going to play the Atrocity and end the game. So it's just a matter of how do you get there in the meantime. And I think Noxian Fervor kind of gives you, this is probably the cleanest Noxian Fervor that you're going to have. Mm-hmm. And it could just be a question of, am I going face or am I going for that Misfortune?
Yeah, and I mean, what are you really worried about? A single combat at this point, right? And if they do play a single combat, that's one less they have for the future, I guess. So I think you're right. I think this is probably the cleanest Fervor he's going to get. And with how much other damage he has in his hand, I mean, it's pretty much looking like he's going to be able to get this Darius out on turn 6 leveled up.
Yeah, and there are only 2 single combat in Ghosterdriver's deck. One of the things that interested me about his deck list was the spell lineup that he's brought, because it's a lot of 1 and 2 ofs. We only see 1 Relentless Pursuit, but then we also see 1 back-to-back, 1 Riposte, 1 Concerted Strike. And Concerted Strike is AnnieDesu's main concern at this point. That is the one thing that can sort of stop this Darius Atrocity combo from going off.
Yeah, Concerted Strike, huge card. We've seen that come up a lot more lately. I mean, that card, when it first came out, pretty much everybody just glanced over it, didn't really give it mind. Now we're seeing it a lot, especially in, we were just talking about earlier, the Lux Braum deck is typically playing Concerted Strike as a great card to get some of that mana spent for those sweet free final sparks. But we will see what Ghosterdriver decides to do here. He doesn't have the Concerted Strike, so if something like that does come down, it's definitely going to be in danger of him just straight up losing the game.
Yeah, and we see now the barrier to protect the misfortune. Yeah, Annie doesn't actually have to attack this turn. He's fine to just sort of take these open passes. As long as this Grenadier dies, Ghosterdriver is going to be down below that Darius threshold. You run out the Darius on your attack turn, you Atrocity the next turn, it's GG. And so far we've seen AnnieDesu top deck absolutely nothing but spells since this game has started, and that was the one weakness that we cited in this deck is you do just have brick hands. And I'm curious to see if players are going to adapt to this by just cutting down on the number of spells. AnnieDesu bringing out 3 transfusion this week, which is something that has become a little atypical. A lot of players going down to 2. As you know, if you are bricking up on spells, transfusion is going to be one of the most useless ones that you can actually have sitting in your hand.
Yeah, and I don't know if I mean, I definitely understand that getting 3 and, your hand feels bad. They don't actually do direct damage per se. But I do still think it's probably one of the better cards of this format, just in general, especially when you're combining it with Overwhelm units. I mean, the ability to not only save an Overwhelm unit, but potentially combo with a Disciple and push additional damage with that Overwhelm unit. It's just too good to ignore sometimes. But I do like that he did decide to go with 2. Maybe, actually, how many Disciples is he playing? Oh, he is playing 3.
Yeah, okay. He's got... Does he have 2? Okay, yeah, he only has 2 transfusions, so Ghosterdriver was still playing 3 transfusion.
Yeah,
I knew somebody was playing 3 transfusion. There's 6 Darius harrowing in this. No, there's 7 Darius harrowing in this top cut. Someone's playing 3 transfusion.
And I think, once again, I mean, with a single combat not having come out before, I think he's probably going to go for possibly another Noxian Fervor here just to get the damage onto the Nexus to put his opponent even... I mean, he doesn't even need it. He doesn't even need it because the Legion Grenadier is going to put him below 10. It's going to level his Darius anyways. But at this point, I think you just kind of want to be mana efficient, maybe. He could also transfusion onto the Grenadier and kill the Quinn. And it looks like he's going to go that route.
Yeah, I actually like this a fair amount. I'm curious to see if he also throws out the Fervor onto the Misfortune just to make sure that he doesn't die this turn. I actually don't love this going at face. You've got this guaranteed lethal with the Darius Atrocity. Your opponent going down to 6 doesn't really help you live through Concerted Strike. Maybe AnnieDesu is just setting up so that the Darius can attack for lethal, but that opens you up to single combat if you are going to go for the Atrocity after the fact.
Yeah, and I kind of agree with you. I mean, he might just straight up die here. Is he like 1 off of lethal? Yeah, wow. Talk about close, Jesus. That's really, really close. I don't know. I guess if he were to Noxian Fervor the Misfortune, I don't even know if that really does it matter because this is going to be the last turn anyways. I mean, maybe that's kind of the thought process.
So one of the concerns here is that AnnieDesu loses if he attacks with this Darius. He's going to get blown out by this back-to-back.
Yeah, and so he can't. He basically just has to go into the next turn and hope to all hell that his opponent doesn't have something to stop this Atrocity, which literally at this point has to be a Concerted Strike.
And here's the scary part. Ghosterdriver plays 1 Concerted Strike and 1 back-to-back, so it's a matter of which out am I playing around. If you attack, though, you lose to Concerted Strike and back-to-back, so you might as well just take the pass.
No, why would you attack here?
Yeah, like I said, the attack loses to back-to-back and Concerted Strike. The Atrocity only loses to Concerted Strike, and it's possible that AnnieDesu just not respecting the back-to-back at all. And this will just be lethal for Ghosterdriver. There's nothing AnnieDesu is going to be able to... there's nothing AnnieDesu is going to be able to draw to actually deal that 6 damage.
I don't understand why he would... Okay, so maybe... All right, so basically this just tells me that he is reading that his opponent has a Concerted Strike as opposed to a back-to-back, and he just took the 50-50 and went for it.
That's it's not a 50-50 though, because Concerted Strike kills you, whether you attack or go for the Atrocity.
Yeah.
Now you just open yourself up to that back-to-back option, and he's going to get punished for it.
Plus technically a back-to-back with single combat. I don't know if he would have had 8 mana. That would have also killed the Darius. So I think, I mean, statistically speaking, I don't think he should have attacked there. I think he had more of a chance if he just sat on the Darius. And we see, too, what was his next draw? I didn't see Ghosterdriver's last draw.
Me neither. It was something irrelevant. It was some kind of unit.
Yeah, so if that's the case, then he would have won. AnnieDesu would have won there.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's really unfortunate to see that happen. And I mean, hey, it's looking like we might have another Ghosterdriver win. We were talking
I
about
mean,
this earlier.
so it's always weird to be like, oh, well, a lot of people are like, I just won't play around the one ofs. If they have it, they have it. But when your opponent's entire spell lineup is one ofs, you can't play around no spells. Like you have to play around something.
Yeah.
And AnnieDesu just didn't play around anything.
Yeah, that was really weird to see. But we'll see this next matchup. I mean, this is going to be tough. So again, he's going with the Darrowing because he probably figures he can win out with the Karma as if needed. But this might be a hard matchup. I mean, with this sort of deck that Ghosterdriver's playing with the elusives, he might be able to just honestly burst Annie down before Annie can do anything.
Yeah, the elusive does seem to be the weak point of this lineup for Ghosterdriver, which could just be incorrect to say, as Scouts and Darrowing do appear in a lot of lineups. Ghosterdriver just electing to go for this elusive deck over some kind of PZ Ionia. So maybe it's just that I don't think this is as powerful as something like Karma Ezreal. But as we mentioned, this lineup was made to pick on the PZ Ionia decks, and I think that's why AnnieDesu's still hanging back this Karma. He wants to pick up his win. Understands that the Karma Ezreal is like a little bit out of his hands in terms of how things line up in that matchup. So just trying to pick up the win with the Daring to kind of get a confidence boost.
And I was going to say, too, like on Ghosterdriver's side, a big advantage he would have is if he did draw something early, like a Zed into a Fury of the North, or even like a couple elusive units, something like a Green Glade Duo or a Shadow Assassin and a Navori Conspirator together. But kind of whiffed on all of those in his hand. Doesn't really have anything that's going to be too aggressive. So in this case, especially with a Draven on the side of AnnieDesu, I think Annie's in a pretty good spot right now.
Yeah, this is not a very good hand on the side of Ghosterdriver. Braum is good in this matchup, but doesn't actually get much done in terms of trading. Is more just of a defensive tool, and it doesn't pair super well into that Basilisk Rider that we do see out of Annie. The decisive maneuver normally would come up massive in a matchup like this, but we do see the deny out of Ghosterdriver, so even that's not necessarily on the table.
Yeah, and that is a good point with the Braum too, right? Like Braum does feel good if he's able to pick off like a Legion Grenadier, kind of nullify that 3 attack, or even this this Precious Pet that we see here if he decides to not block with it, which I imagine he won't. Really anything, but this Basilisk is that card's good.
Is there any reason not to block with the Grenadier here? If you attack with it, it's just going to get blocked by the Omen Hawk, so I feel like you might as well save yourself the 1 damage.
Yeah, no, I agree with that train of thought. You might as well. There's no reason not to. So yeah.
I feel like that's something that players get caught up a lot with, where they're like, oh, I don't want to lose this unit on an inefficient trade. And it's like, okay, well, now you can't attack with it because that thing you didn't want to block is still there to block you.
Yeah, it accomplishes the same thing except 1 less damage. So, yep, 100%. And we do see the Green Glade Duo now. So we got at least a unit. Not really going to do too much for him here, though. So I imagine Annie will be able to get some sort of damage down if he does decide to go with the Iron Ballista, and it looks like he does. Obviously, Draven was probably a thought as well, but honestly, he's going to have to go for as quick of a win as possible, so I do like the Iron Ballista coming down here.
Yeah, I think because Darius was the pickup off the top, he's now much more inclined to try and put his opponent at that 10 health breakpoint going into turn number 6, and Iron Ballista just pushes the most damage, gives him the best opportunity to do something like that.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at, a guaranteed 4 damage here? No, guaranteed at least 3 if he blocks the Precious Pet with the Green Glade and then also decides to block with the Scout. But either way, yeah, that's going to put his opponent at either 12 or 13. And again, like you said, that's just a little bit closer to the Darius leveling. He does have a Basilisk to drop on the next turn, too. So if this is going to be a next turn, Ghosterdriver dropping a Braum and Annie dropping a Basilisk, I give advantage Annie at that point with how strong Basilisk is.
Yeah, and I'm actually a little surprised to see Ghosterdriver continue to find success with this Kinko elusive deck, mostly because it doesn't seem on paper like it pairs well into this Darrowing deck. There's so much overwhelm. You have so many low health units, and I think that's why we do see the full 3 Braum and the return to the full 3 Elixir of Iron, because typically in these Kinko elusive decks, we're seeing only a couple of Freljord cards. We're generally seeing Elixir of Iron go down to a 1 of. This buffed up Braum is actually going to play out really well for him. Did get buffed up by that Omen Hawk, so it is a 2/6. And I think he's actually going to be pretty inclined to get the take heart down onto it in a matchup like this. Save that deny for the decisive maneuver. And Ghosterdriver, this could be one of the first times in a long time we actually see Braum himself completely take over a game.
Yeah, I mean, because everything's combat related right now, right? I mean, there's really no way for Annie to deal with this Braum other than just killing it. And that's going to have to be if it's a direct attack with the Basilisk. But like you said, if he Braum take hearts on the Braum after it takes out this Precious Pet, that ain't happening. And we're going to see a 3-3 come down in this Mighty Poro. So, yeah, now the game might slowly start to swing in Ghosterdriver's direction. I mean, that Omen Hawk hitting the Braum, too, was definitely pretty big as well.
Yeah, and this Elixir of Iron might even just get used on this Braum defensively next turn to survive the Basilisk Rider, because he doesn't actually have take heart mana available to him at the moment. Is going to have to wait until next turn to get that one down. But AnnieDesu doesn't have a phenomenal turn 5 play. It looks like he's only going to be able to get down 1 3-drop, kind of take his choice on the Ballista or the Draven. I think Ballista seems a little bit more likely to try and push through to that 10 health breakpoint. Crimson Disciple really doesn't change much on this turn.
Yeah, I mean, it allows him to technically get 2 units down, but, you know, we were talking earlier about the transfusions. Well, we don't have any transfusions right now, so the Crimson Disciple isn't really going to do anything for you. I don't know, this is so tough. You know, because especially because we see Ghosterdriver draw a Fury of the North now. You know, obviously, Annie, that's a card that Annie's going to have to play around most of the game regardless, so it's going to be kind of hard for him to throw down a Draven and attack with it. It's probably going to die to something. You know, then there's the Iron Ballista, which sure might get through some damage if he attacks with everything. And I think that might be the route he has to go, right? Crimson Disciple and then Iron Ballista next.
Yeah, and you know, this is a terrifying board to attack into, especially since Ghosterdriver is just going to pass here since he has nothing to play in his hand. And that means you have to worry about Fury of the North, Elixir of Iron, pretty much everything that you have to worry about, Ghosterdriver currently has in hand.
Yeah, feels bad, man. Literally every combat trick that's going to make AnnieDesu's life hell right now is what's happening. And yeah, I'd be surprised to see the Draven actually come down here. I feel like it doesn't really do much for Annie. He's just going to have to push damage and then just pray for, like, you know, some like an Atrocity again. Except this time not play it, so they or not forget to play it, or not play it and opt to attack with Darius instead. We need to just see that puppy go off, and that's seeming like one of his only outs at this point.
Yeah, even if he draws the Atrocity and goes in for a Darius attack and gets blown out by Fury of the North, we're turning off the stream. I'm done for the stream.
We can't see that twice in a row, man. Like, and it's so, I don't know. I feel like Darrowing has done so well generally in tournaments. Like, we both keep hearing about it all the time, but I feel like from the games we've casted, we see Darrowing get blown out a lot.
Yeah, it's an inconsistent deck. And I don't know if that's just confirmation bias, but I feel like a lot of the time that we see this deck, we see people dying with like multiple copies of Transfusion or multiple Dariuses in hand. The early game just doesn't seem as aggressive as we're kind of used to out of our aggro decks without things like what's it called, like Boom Crew Rookie coming out, or used Cask Salesman. There's not as much burn to actually get your opponent below that 10 health breakpoint, and it's something that can actually be difficult for players to do recently.
Yeah, and it looks like, so he actually didn't go for the attack last turn, probably thinking, okay, there's no way I get around any of the combat tricks that Ghosterdriver has. So it's gonna put him in a tough spot though, right? Maybe he goes wide and gets a pretty good decisive maneuver off, which would definitely do a whole ton of damage. That might just give him the win, depending on what blocks what there. That's gonna be, I don't know. I don't know. Do you like him not having attack last turn?
Yeah, I think that your opponent does just have a little bit too scary of a board for you to attack into with, you know, the potential of Fury of the North. I think that would just absolutely blow you out and end the game on the spot. So you're trying to find a time for your opponent to sort of tap out below Fury of the North and deny mana so that you can get off this decisive maneuver, because you do have Overwhelm. You want to decisive maneuver through whatever got Fury of the North, and then you're kind of chilling. But last turn was kind of his last opportunity to do that. You know, there was only 7 mana available to Ghosterdriver. But I guess he just didn't think he had enough Overwhelm units on board. You know, his board was really weak at the time. He spent turn 5 developing this Crimson Disciple and this Iron Ballista, so you'd really just be going in with Basilisk Rider, and that's about as weak a decisive maneuver as you could possibly get.
Yeah, and I think he's kind of forced to play the decisive maneuver at this point.
Yeah, I think anytime that you're using it to trade for Fury of the North, that's something you're actually just going to be okay with.
Yeah, it feels a little bit better there. I mean, do you block with the Ballista? I feel like you block with the Precious Pet.
Yeah, I would agree. The damage going on to you doesn't matter as much as just getting the efficient trade of this, you know, this a little bit of a useless unit.
Uh-oh, that's not good.
Actually, maybe, so I don't hate the Ballista necessarily because currently there's nothing on Ghosterdriver's board that
Oh,
can
that can
actually
block the
block the
precious pet.
Precious Pet.
Okay, yep.
And your Basilisk Rider does trade onto everything on your opponent's board as well. So you've actually got some like you really like your attacks into this board. So I can understand going for the Ballista block there. Whereas otherwise Ballista doesn't trade into Braum very well.
Yeah, and it looks like he's A-okay with just playing this Darius down on the board now because he did see the Fury of the North come out. And I think, there is actually only 2 Fury of the North, which is actually a huge difference. Like, Fury of the North is such a good card. Knowing that you already got 1 down and only have to worry about 1 now is like a huge, just load off your back. So he definitely feels a lot safer playing this Darius, probably just going in here. As though nothing's probably going to die necessarily straight up to something like a Fury of the North.
And I think we're pretty close to lethal.
Yeah, and he's also got the Noxian Fervor. And all of a sudden, yeah, he was able to make a pretty big comeback here with that turn where I was talking earlier where he didn't attack. Seems like it was a pretty smart friggin' turn to not attack.
Yeah, he does eventually get the trade of the Decisive Maneuver in the Fury of the North, so that's really all you were kind of looking for on a turn like that, but I think developing his board was much better and integral in his overall win here, so it looks like this currently puts Ghosterdriver at -1.
Is this
So
game no matter what?
Well, he's got to throw out the Elixir of Iron to
Yeah,
survive,
okay.
and then we have Deny for the Noxian Fervor on the following turn. So AnnieDesu does have a little bit more work to do, but I don't think he's necessarily in danger of dying on the crackback. Even if we do see something like a Windfarer Hatchling off the top for Ghosterdriver, he doesn't really have enough elusives out there to get it done.
Don't say Windfarer Hatchling. That's like that deck's harrowing, okay? Like it's like, oh, you thought you were winning? Nope. Here we go. Here's a giant field of elusives all of a sudden. Especially with 3 Blade Scouts. Like, okay, right now they're all 2/1s. Feel really bad if they all just suddenly get huge buffs on them.
Yeah.
So we'll see if that top deck does end up coming down the pipe here. But like you said, that Deny on this Fervor might end up being pretty huge. Especially because he is able to finally get this take heart off on the Braum, which is in and of itself also incredible.
Ooh, Crimson Disciple is not lethal.
Nope.
Is Ghosterdriver going to tap down below Deny Mana? I don't think he is for the rest of the game. He does have to be cognizant of both Noxian Fervor and Decimate. Now, AnnieDesu is only running... Nope, AnnieDesu's running 3 Decimate. Ghosterdriver's only running 1 Decimate in his Darrowing list, so I wasn't sure how players were kind of feeling about something like that. But even if there's only 1 Decimate in the list, any additional copies of Darius also represent that card. So there's a chance for AnnieDesu to have 5 Decimates available to him, so that is definitely something that you have to be cognizant of and play around. But Ghosterdriver probably just going to take a little bit too long to get this one done. His entire turn will be committed to this Deny, which means he could just die to the Overwhelm on the following turn. Although... yeah, like if Darius dies here, that actually just kills the Braum as well. So that's not a trade that you can afford to make, and you still don't have a good blocker for this Precious Pet or this Crimson Disciple.
Yeah, and he is he will. Draven doesn't really do anything for him. The attacking with the Crimson Disciple, if he is able. Oh wow, he's just going for it. Damn. I was not expecting that. I was like, Ghosterdriver has 2 denies in his deck, but AnnieDesu just like balls to the wall. Screw it, I'm just gonna go for it, and gets punished. I guess I wouldn't really call that a punish per se though, because okay, he still has tons of top decks, so I guess it might have been worth the risk conceivably. Maybe, I don't know.
So this was Annie actually playing around the outs for once, because Will of Ionia is another answer to the Noxian Fervor. So if Will of Ionia was the answer out of Ghosterdriver, then you get to deny the damage onto the Braum, deny the level up, and sort of keep that guy at a manageable health total. So I definitely like going for the Fervor there. Yeah,
and what I was gonna say before he played the Fervor, it surprised me a little bit. I was thinking even if he didn't play the Fervor, he was just gonna go wide with the Draven and the Crimson Disciple, which might give it to a point where if the Braum blocks the Darius. Oh no, actually no, because he played the Shadow Assassin, he actually can't go that wide. But now this would actually give him lethal.
This should get punished by the Windfarer Hatchling though.
Yep.
And that's gonna take a lot of the overwhelm damage off the table. This does mean that Braum now gets to kill the Darius for free. Still get that Mighty Poro. Basilisk Rider doesn't get.
Oh no! It's still game because the axe on the Basilisk if it gets blocked by the Shadow Assassin.
Yep, Basilisk Rider is still going to be lethal thanks to this spinning axe. And Man, oh man, you can talk about Elise all you want, but I want to say this is the third or fourth time we have seen players win the game with just that spinning axe, and AnnieDesu holding back that Crimson Disciple so that he has the discard target is going to get rewarded for it. And now we're going to see Ghosterdriver taking Kinku Elusives against Karma Ezreal, a matchup that he has won so many times in the past that I'm still not convinced is favored, but this man keeps pumping out tournament wins with it, and it is a matchup he has played numerous times, so we'll finally get to see once again how he gets it done.
Yeah, and I got to say, you nailed it, right? I mean, I was talking about him playing the Draven and the Crimson Disciple to try to go wide. Obviously, he saw that his opponent was just a little bit wider than him, and that actually does that. That's a game-winning difference there, deciding not to play that Crimson Disciple, being able to give him that literally one extra damage he needs to win the game. And wow, you want to talk about calculated? That's calculated. Exact lethal, baby. That's what I like to see.
All right, so AnnieDesu picking up his, I want to say at 1.5 win with this Darrowing deck. Should have had a win in the last game, but just not playing around the back-to-back. This time, going to play around everything beautifully. It does actually pick that one up.
Yeah, and now we have a tie game, folks.
That's what I like to see.
1-1. Hell yeah. Dude, we always like game threes. Game threes, game fives, whatever it is. Best of 7, best of 9. I don't care. As long as we go to the last game. Wow, best of 9. That would suck. Never mind. Never mind. I act like I didn't say that.
What are we playing, golf here?
Yeah, never mind. That would be hell.
How many decks do you even have to bring for a best of 9?
Oh, Jesus, that would be terrible. Wait, actually, can we not do math again? Is that 5? Wait, do you bring 5 decks for a best?
Well, I mean,
6.
okay, so I think technically, well,
wait.
So I know in Hearthstone there were 9 classes, and there were some things where you would bring all 9 decks, and it was usually like a team format where like each person would bring 3 decks, and I'm like, but that's not a best of 9. That's like a best of 19 or 18.
Yeah. I get chills just thinking about that. That's rough. I don't.
That's
man.
a lot of card games.
Yeah, that is a lot of card games. That's for sure. So we see only three right now though. So we're going into game 3. AnnieDesu versus Ghosterdriver. We have the Karma Ezreal versus this Elusive. So we'll see if this Elusive can pick up another win. Like you said, somehow Ghoster's been able to make this deck work, and we'll see if he can make it work against arguably one of the strongest, if not the strongest deck in the meta right now.
Yeah, best of 9 sounds like something that you like money match someone for in a back alley, not like a tournament format. It's like, you get your 3 friends and I'll get my 3 friends, and we'll play a best of 9 behind the Wendy's for $100.
Best of 9 behind the Wendy's. Somebody, did you have a personal experience involving a card game at a Wendy's?
So back to the game at hand. With my Ghosterdriver. Actually, the Elixir of Iron is something that comes up big in a matchup like this. Consistently, when we see damage-based removal formats pop up, be it Shadow Isle or PNZ, we constantly see players going back to aggressive Freljord decks with the Elixir of Iron as the sort of answer to things like that. And now AnnieDesu does have the potential to kill the Zed with the Thermogenic Beam. But if he goes for the Mystic Shot, he has the potential to get hard punished here.
Yeah, we'll see if he decides to go for the Mystic Shot. That is a good point. I imagine, I don't know, he could just develop the Shadow Assassin.
I think you take this pass every time, right?
Yeah, why not? He's just giving up an attack turn. I don't think you really care about the 3 mana that you're gonna blow. Your opponent also blows 2 mana, and you're just able to kind of make a bigger hand. And a big hand in a Karma Ezreal deck is always a good thing.
Especially given that, like, you're not doing anything on turn 4, so you're kind of fine floating this 3 mana. Otherwise, we have the potential for the turn to play out something like play the Shadow Assassin. This is a little bit scary because now you do get blown out by this Elixir of Iron, whereas previously you had Mystic Shot into Concussive Palm available to you when the Elixir came out.
He thought about it too. He really did. And okay, so this is he's gonna get punched by the Elixir of Iron. Yeah, so this is gonna be the Mystic Shot probably. Because now the Thermo Beam isn't going to do 4. There's no reason to play the Thermo Beam. That feels super, super bad.
These passes can be really scary out of players, and you really have to sit down and calculate, is this a bait or is this just my opponent representing a weak hand? And if your opponent's playing an aggro deck and you're playing a deck that wants to go late game, don't think too hard about the bait. Just take it. Just take the pass. Say, okay, you know what? We're fine to go late. If your hand is weak, my Shadow Assassin development really isn't going to be a difference maker in a game like this. And this Zed into Elixir of Iron is going to be a massive difference maker.
Yeah, we see the sad Poro emote. Emote game strong with this one. Oh man, I'll tell you that yeah, I got to agree with you 100%. It's like if you're playing control, the further into the game you get, the higher percentage chance you have of winning the game versus basically any deck, but especially against an aggro deck. And yeah, I would have just taken the pass there, regardless of us being obviously we can we can see the hand, so
Yeah.
we kind of have a one up on Annie, but I think yeah, no matter what, you take that there, and he is gonna get punished. He takes a whole hell of a lot of damage pretty early on here, but he does have the potion to get him up a little bit, stay a little bit healthy. Claw.
I feel like that was kind of weird health potion too, just because like you're gonna
The
have that
claw.
1 mana floated into. Yeah, I guess getting the claw out is what you want. Oh, the deep
And
meditation
yeah.
makes a fair amount of sense too. So I guess that's what we're doing on turn 4. This feels bad.
Yeah, it really does. But he was kind of forced into it. It's your attack turn. You're not going to be playing the concussive palm. I guess you could possibly play the thermo beam, but again, he's going to be on 4 mana. If there's another elixir, he just gets punished for it. So yeah, you're kind of forced into playing the deep meditation here, and he is going to go that route and gets okay. 2 concussive palms can definitely keep him in the game for a little while.
Yeah, the scary part is because it is Zed, he's still gonna get that other 4/3 coming at you. I wouldn't have hated the thermogenic beam, just kind of trading card for card with your opponent in a sort of deck where you're favored for things like that. But I also understand wanting to get off that discounted deep meditation because given your hand, it's gonna be a while before you can get another one of those off.
Yo, yeah, 100%. I mean, he does have the rummage now as well, which will be nice. But at this point, we'll see if he even makes it to a turn where he can play the rummage. You'd obviously like to get it down with a leveled karma. We're still 5 turns away from karma even really being a huge threat, and we're already seeing another Zed attack. And the one thing that Concussive Palm kind of feels bad with is a Zed attacking like that because you can't stun both of them, unfortunately, and it looks like he is actually considering stunning one of the other Zeds.
Yeah, he might actually just not throw out the palm this turn. He does have exact lethal onto the Zed if he goes Shadow Assassin into this Thermogenic Beam and could just be considering something like that. But we see 4 answers for that in Ghosterdriver's hand between the Shadow Shift, the Thermo Beams, the Fury of the North, and that Shadow Shift. I don't think you ever Shadow Shift the Zed. I think you just play the other Zed.
Dude, yeah, you know how many times I've said that to myself, and every time I look at the card, I'm like, why does this card even exist? Like, I don't actually understand why this card is a champion spell, but yeah, I agree, and I'll tell you, that hand on the side of Ghosterdriver is like the perfect hand to protect a Zed. Like, that's what you want with a Zed on the field. Oh, you mean I can make it a 8 attack, 8/7 real quick, and also you can do nothing about it because I have 2 denies in my hand? I'll take that any day, 100%.
Yeah, now we even see a recall come out. Just, I'm pretty sure this Omen Hawk came down on turn 1, and we haven't seen a unit drawn since. I think that Zed and Ghost, or the Shadow Shift in Ghosterdriver's hand is actually a 5/4 Zed, so he might actually want this Zed to die so that he can get down a slightly bigger one.
Yeah, wow. This is absolutely amazing for Ghosterdriver. With that said, if Annie is able to somehow deal with both Zeds, I mean, obviously, late game wise, it's going to look bad for Ghosterdriver because he hasn't really been able to get anything established right now, but I'm not sure if we'll even make it to that point with this Zed right now.
And Annie's got a bit of an awkward rest of the turn. Could run out of karma here.
Yeah, we see that the karma is actually safe. I mean, he could just play it, get some free spells. Why not? It doesn't really feel too bad. The only problem with Annie's hand, right? He's got the 2 concussive palms. The way that Ghosterdriver's hand plays out, he's almost always going to open attack. So those concussive palms are never actually going to be able to prevent this Zed from, developing a clone every single turn.
Yeah, it's really, you either play Karma or you try to kill the Zed. Either one I'm not mad at, but I don't want you to just like take this path.
Yeah. Or just pass. I think you have to go with the Karma though. Like, knowing that your opponent is playing 2 Fury of the North, 2 Deny, and even a recall, which essentially might as well be a deny at that point. It's because it costs 3 to play the Zed back down, right? Like, you might as well just go with the Karma because you know your opponent's probably going to stop that at this point with 9 mana right now.
Yeah, and I feel like you're not even necessarily going to hate the idea of just throwing that Karma under the bus as a Zed blocker. You are going to get your free spell out of it, which is better than the nothing you were going to do with your turn.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Yep, and you have another Karma in your hand. So, You're not really too worried. Honestly, spending a karma to buy yourself a turn is probably huge value right now. Like six mana to live another turn is totally okay. That's actually not bad to just live it. That's another turn. So right there, that karma basically bought him 2 more turns to be able to live.
Yeah, and we finally see another unit picked up, the second Omen Hawk buffed up unit. We are just going to see the open attack out of Ghosterdriver, though. And something that AnnieDesu is not doing that we've started to see more and more out of Karma Ezreal's is he hasn't done that sort of trade-off where he cuts one of the Karmas for a Vi.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that has been super popular. That would be very helpful right now, or would have been the last few turns. And he is actually just going to bust out both concussive palms here, like snap decision. No, you are not attacking with this Zed. And he's thinking, maybe he won't do it, but I think you kind of have to at this point.
Yeah, I'm just concerned that, I mean, if you're going to throw out both concussive palms, I feel like you should still throw a blocker in front of one of these.
Yeah, just in case.
I don't really care which one you throw out in front, but, I don't think there's anything, Ghosterdriver only has the 1 deny mana available to him, so you're not super scared about something like this.
I think this is smart, right? Because if he does deny 1, you have the second concussive palm as a backup. Problem is he actually showed that he had 2 spells, 2 Ghosterdrivers. So I don't know. Yeah, it doesn't look like he decides to deny that. So I don't know if that affected Ghosterdriver's decision there, showing the 2 spells, but you never know.
That would have been the most heads up bait ever if he had like 1 concussive palm and then like a mystic shot and just like lines them both up and goes, oh, never mind. I have 2 answers for your Zed. I'm not super worried about it. Please don't deny me.
Yeah, right. That 10-headed play. And we see the scrap scuttler start to come out. Honestly, yeah, I mean, just putting these units to just stuff up the board right now is going to do work. I mean, we see now, we were talking earlier, the later in the game, the better. We're now getting on turn 8, and that Zed was actually not really able to pressure quite enough to get the job done. And now we see he's below deny mana, and this is some pretty sick static shock value.
Yeah, we are consistently seeing these aggro decks die by just overloading on spells, and Ghosterdriver kind of having a similar problem here. He's got the 2 deny, but he's looking for sort of the perfect moment to play them, and that hasn't come up, and it can still win him the game because that is just kind of the power of it, but this Karma's getting closer and closer to that Enlightened turn, and Ghosterdriver's not really threatening it anytime soon. AnnieDesu is really getting his way back into this game. Zed is good, but it's not enough to just win a game on its own.
I figured he was going to do this, but I don't know if I actually like that. I mean, I guess if you're going to go for like a Windfare Hatchling turn, that feels okay. And you also have the 2 denies, so you don't really need the recall as like a backup to save anything right now. But it just kind of feels eh.
His turn 9, he is going to have Blade Scout, Wayfarer, deny mana available to him. So I do kind of like setting up for something like that. And Ghosterdriver has a lot of reps on a deck like this. I'm sure he's come into situations like this before. So I definitely think I'm okay with recalling that Blade Scout. I don't think you're getting any better value out of it at this point.
All right, what's the verdict? What's Ezreal at? What do we got? Do we know?
Oh,
three.
God.
3. Was that 3? Did I see 3? I don't know if my eyes were quick enough there.
3.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it was 1 Static Shock, 1 Concussive Palm, and 1 Mystic Shot.
The Mystic Shot was super wait, no. Oh, yeah, because the Static Shock, one of them was recalled. So, yeah. Yep. 3 sounds right. So, we also are only, crucially, 2 turns away from Karma being leveled. And the first one he played is still on the field. So, honestly, I'm starting to favor Annie just a little bit more in this matchup now, kind of regardless of what Ghosterdriver draws.
Part of the reason for this is because Ghoster has held on to these denies for so long, and that's a card that really stops getting value once the Karma is leveled. So while it's a good pickup early on in the game, Ghosterdriver has been waiting for the perfect moment to fire those off, hasn't found it yet, and is getting kind of to the point where you're not going to find one. And we talk about this all the time with Scout players, where they constantly look for that perfect Relentless Pursuit instead of a good Relentless Pursuit. Ghosterdriver probably should have just taken a deny onto the Concussive Palm earlier on, would have gotten a deny out of his hand, would have gotten the second Concussive Palm out of AnnieDesu's hand, but we're getting to a point where this deny is not going to find any value.
It's that what if, man. It's the what if that everybody thinks whenever they play card games. Like, well, but if I play this now, I don't have it for later. So maybe I should save it. But like, yeah, you nailed it, man. When you got 2, you gotta bust one out at some point, and it's looking like it is really hurting him. He could have done it on the. Granted, if he did it on the Concussive Palm a little while ago, there was another one that would have just came down anyways. So there's ways that we saw that Annie could have played around it, but he's not helping himself by holding on to him.
Yeah, especially because you are in a matchup specifically where the deny does eventually stop getting value. Once this karma does come out, all of a sudden you've got to throw out 2 denies to stop 1 spell, and that's probably not something you're going to do. But he is looking to end the game on this next attack, and looking at the hand of AnnieDesu, I'm not sure he's actually going to be able to get that one done. I don't think 1 deny is going to be enough. Oh, this is big.
Ooh. Well, this
Ghosterdriver now gets down the upgraded Zed. It doesn't hurt his mana at all going into the following turn. And Annie's only going to have Concussive Palm, Will of Ionia available to him in terms of stopping this Blade Scout Windfarer Hatchling play. One of those is going to get denied. And I'm not sure if he's safe enough with these Scrap Dash assemblies.
The thing is, he does have the... If he does decide to go with the Windfarer Hatchling on the side of Ghosterdriver, he does have the Concussive Palm that he can immediately play to basically nullify all the Zeds that could possibly come down. So I don't know if Ghoster actually has enough damage across the entire board to win, even if everything was played out from his hand.
He has 12 elusive damage.
Oh, he has 12. Okay, so... All right, well, then there's also Will of Ionia. So I don't...
have the deny.
Oh, we have the deny. Okay.
So if you Concussive Palm the Zed, then I deny the Will of Ionia and I win the game.
Ooh, okay. So let's see what he does here. It looks like he's actually going to rummage for some more options, which I don't mind because that leaves him with 8 mana, which leaves him enough to play both of those. But yeah, the way that you just went through all that with the deny, I do think that's going to be an issue. Okay, we see a deny. I don't know.
The Concussive Palm onto the Zed, I think, is the bait here because you have the 2 Scrap Dash assembly blockers, and the as appealing as it looks, I think this is what loses him the game.
Yeah, you might actually. So okay, that's a good point. I think you actually Concussive Palm an elusive unit, knowing that a Windfarer Hatchling is probably in your future, right? You haven't seen one all game, so because you have the Scrap Dashes that could have blocked the Zeds, yeah, I think you're 100% right. 5, that's 13 right there. So I think this is just game.
Yeah, and this is what we were talking about a little bit earlier on, using that recall on the Blade Scout, setting up very specifically and deliberately for this this Windfarer Hatchling turn with the deny backup for lethal. And AnnieDesu, killing the Zed with the remainder of his mana does mean he's not going to have enough available to him. Here we're going to see the deny come out, and Ghosterdriver once again able to find a win with this Kinku elusives, regardless of the karma, getting so close to getting that upgraded value and turning the denies off, but it doesn't happen fast enough, and Ghosterdriver does pick up that win.
That is a feels bad. That's 2. Okay. So on the part of Annie, that's 2 decisions that we saw at the end of both of those games that could have given him potentially a win. Definitely for one of them, we know for a fact. And then that one, we don't know how it would have played out, but there's a good chance if he lived that turn, he would have been able to stabilize.
Yeah, if you can live into an upgraded karma turn, I don't think you can lose against an aggro deck, especially since you have the Ezreal in hand. You're just going to...
And the karma's already outfield.
The Ezreal was only at, I think if that resolved, I think it's at 4 out of 8, but that means you're only 2 spells away with the upgraded karma.
All right, and that's it for the quarterfinals. We have the rest of the tournament coming up this week alongside all the other stuff that's been going on lately. Whew, I got a lot of videos to work on. So as always, everybody, stay healthy, stay positive. I hope shit just works for you. Peace out.